تعالى في كلامه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا إيمان لمن لا أمانة له ولا دين لمن لا عهد له أو كما قال عليه الصلوات والتسليمات. Respected brothers, elders, mothers, sisters, and dear youngsters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator and sustainer, and we send the choicest blessings upon the final messenger, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, peace and blessings upon him. This is the first Jummah of 2012, and as people generally say, time flies. Hasan al-Basri, rahmatullahi alayhi, the great saint, the great scholar, was asked the definition of who is a human being, what is a human being. We generally, as people of intellect, etc., we would say the definition of a human being is a combination of flesh, bones, blood, emotions, etc. Hasan al-Basri rahmatullah alayhi was asked, what is insan, what is the human being? He said, innama anta ayyam. He said, you are but a combination. The human being is but a combination of a number of days. And every time a day passes, then a piece of you has fallen off. So as the days pass, as the years go forward, we're leaving behind the moments of our lives, and we're getting closer to our journey towards the hereafter, the akhirah. We make dua and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bless every moment of ours with goodness, peace and success, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all forms of harm and negative circumstances and situations. Today I'd like to speak about Amaanah, about trust. And the reason for this is that we've seen in modern time, in modern day, that there's an increase of lack of trust. This quality of Amaanah, which is a human quality, and it's further emphasized by religion. We have so many qualities that we regard as good. Even an atheist who doesn't believe in any form of an existence of a God, even an atheist would say, to speak the truth is a good deed, it's a good trait. To be trustworthy is something that is good. So it's a human quality, but it is emphasized, it is stressed by religion, and most definitely by our perfect deen, the deen of Islam. We see in modern time, security has increased. We see in modern days that there are issues related to scams, forgery, and many times even in the name of religion, there are people who engage in scams and forgery. So bad business practices. You know, the other day, one of the notable imams in the city, he sent me an email. Actually, I received an email. And it said, you know what, I'm so-and-so, meaning the imam, and I'm in Spain, and I lost all my money, I have no access to wealth, so send me $1,000. And then after a few moments, I get a genuine email saying that that's a scam. Someone has hacked into my email and sending out these messages. So we have issues about security, the lack of trust, the decrease of Amaanah. And in fact, the Prophet of Islam, in a narration of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, has mentioned that this is something that will increase as the day of judgment draws near. The more closer we draw nearer, the more closer we get to the day of judgment, we will see the lack of trust. We will see the lack of honesty. We will see the lack of integrity. We will see the lack of goodness. And in this, it's a lengthy narration quoted by Hudayfa radiyallahu anhu. And those of us that know some details about the companions, the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu was the companion who was known as the secret bearer of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. The Prophet told him many secrets, and he kept those secrets with him. For example, he had the list of all the people who were regarded as the munafiqun, the hypocrites. And he did not divulge that information to anyone. Umar radiallahu anhu would look, whenever someone would pass away, is Hudayfa radiallahu anhu present in that funeral? If he is present, then he would attend it. And if he is not present, he would fear that it's possible that person may be a hypocrite. And he would constantly come to Hudayfa radiallahu anhu and he would ask, Umar ibn al-Khattab would ask, that am I on the list? Is my name on that list? So this was the level of consciousness related to faith and iman. So I was saying Hudayfa radiallahu anhu was the secret bearer of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. He quotes this narration, which is found in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, a very lengthy narration, and the entire narration speaks about Amaanah. It speaks about the quality of trust. And the Prophet begins the narration by speaking about how it will gradually disappear from the ummah, from humanity. And when Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman mentions the narration, he says, I clearly remember the words of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, where the Prophet said that a time will come, يُقَالُ لِلرَّجُلِ, it will be said about a man, مَا أَجْلَدَهُ مَا أَظْرَفَهُ مَا أَعْقَلَهُ, how intelligent that man is, how handsome, how beautiful and apparent that man is, how intelligent and intellectual this man is. So outer appearances will attract people to this individual. But the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, says that he will not even have mithqalu habbatin min khardal. He would not even have a mustard seed of faith, trust or integrity. He would not have a mustard seed, an iota of faith, integrity, honesty and trust. And Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, when he quoted this lengthy narration, I only explained one excerpt of it. He mentioned during his time, he said there was a time when I would not differentiate who I want to do business with, whether it's a Muslim or a non-Muslim, whether it's a Jew or a Christian. Why? Because the Muslim would never deceive, and the Jew and the Christian would look at the integrity and the honesty, and they would also live up to that. But he said during his time, but the time has come that I don't do business with anyone. I look for people of trust. I look for people of truth. And it's difficult for me. So he said this during his time after the demise of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. We can well imagine the situation in our current time, in our period of time or our era. But the reason why the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, mentioned this is that these things will become rampant. But the believer will stay away from that. The genuine believer will not deceive or lie, will not cheat or betray trust, will not show in their transactions and their behavior any form of fraudulent activity. Rather, the true, genuine believer, even though it may be rampant, it may be the order of the day, the believer will refrain from that and stay away from that. And it is the driving force of iman, it is the driving force of faith that will allow this individual to remain truthful and show integrity in his or her actions. Every prophet that was sent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the slogan they said, Ya qawm, O my nation, there is none worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they made a statement, Inni lakum nasihun ameen. I am for you an advisor, ameen. And I am giving you this message as a trustworthy individual. I'm not making up or forging a message here. And this is why when we look at the concept of Amaanah or trust, it's not only in property. It's not only in property. In one of the verses where Allah speaks about Amaanah, Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi rahmatullahi alayhi, the great scholar, the great mufassir, in his great work at Tafsir al-Kabir, he mentions so many different things that fall under the concept of Amaanah. He says our limbs are also an Amaanah. So we have to use our limbs appropriately. Our tongue, what we speak, what we say, it's an Amaanah. Our property, our wealth, our children, all the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have, that we own, they are an Amaanah, they are a trust, and we will be questioned about that. And I began with a verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا. Most certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs that you fulfill the trust. You fulfill the trust to their rightful owners. There are obligations that are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are obligations that are connected to the creation, other human beings, fellow human beings, and we are to always fulfill them. Now the question is, when this quality of Amaanah will deplete, it will disappear, and there will be few people that will live up to trust and Amaanah, integrity, honesty, then how will we be able to face that challenge? How will we be able to be steadfast on Amaanah and trust? The ulama, the mufassirin, they point out in the light of various verses of the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, certain actions that we can take so that we always remain trustworthy. We always remain in the sense of Amaanah, and we fulfill our trust that are upon us. Number one is that we always remain sincere and honest. We always remain sincere and honest. The Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, said, "Inna sidqa birrun." Truth is a good deed. Truth and speaking the truth, being sincere, being truthful, being honest, it's a good deed. وَإِنَّ الْبِرَّ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And this good deed will certainly guide you towards paradise. We all want to go paradise. Like one young person said, why don't you mention this in your sermon, in your khutbah? I said, tell me, if it's of good use, we can share it. So he said, look, if Jannah is your dream, don't let go of your deen. If Jannah is your dream, we want to acquire paradise. We want to reach Jannah. It's our dream. But the way we'll get there is if we equip ourselves with the deen. If we take the mode of transportation that will take us towards that destination. So speaking the truth is part and parcel of humanity, and it's emphasized by our deen. It's emphasized by our religion. And many times, I meet many people, and I've come across many situations. A brother told me that whenever I lied, I always regret it at the end. And whenever I've spoken the truth, I've never regretted it. I never regret when I spoke the truth. But when I lied, and we're living in a time where no one is exempt, including myself. No one exempt. We all lie. We all don't have the habit of being truthful, including myself. But we need to work towards it. We need to realize this is something wrong. And this is why the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, has mentioned in a narration that is found in Targhib and Tarhib, it's not appropriate, it's not in the makeup of a human being who is a believer that they would betray trust, that they would destroy the Amaanah, and they would show lying, deceiving and cheating in matters of trust. So we are believers, and we need to live up to this trust, to this Amaanah, to this concept of truthfulness. The second plan of action, most certainly, that will help us remain steadfast and be trustworthy and fulfill all forms of trust that are laid upon us, is that we keep our promises. We fulfill our promises. We always live up to what we say. As they say, put your money where your word is. Okay, our statements must be truthful. We promise, we commit, we sign a contract, then we are promising not only to the other party, we're promising in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is what I promise, this is what I want to fulfill, and this is what I agree to do. These are the agreements. This is why I have signed the document or the agreement. This is why I have given you my word. Otherwise, we shouldn't give our word. We should say, brother, I can't do this. This is not in my capacity. I can't meet you at this time. It's impossible. It's better to be frank than to say something and then that person feels betrayed. The other party feels that they are betrayed. This is not the attitude of a believer. We have to always show Amaanah and integrity. The Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, says in the narration that I also started with, La imana liman la amanata la. The person has not reached perfection of faith if they don't have trust, if they're not trustworthy. Wala deena liman la ahda la. And there is no perfection in religion if there's no fulfilling of agreements or promises. Anas radiyallahu anhu, an attendant, personal attendant of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, he mentions in one of his statements that at one occasion I was serving the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, and the general time to serve the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, that was appointed, it had come to an end. And I clearly remember, he says, that I moved away, and then the Prophet ﷺ called me back, and he told me a secret. He told me a secret, and I kept it with me. I reached home, and I mentioned to my mother, the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, told me a secret today. So, the mother of Anas radiyallahu anhu said, look, this is a secret between you and the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. And as a mother, I'm telling you that don't ever betray that trust between you and the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. Don't even mention that secret to me. Don't even mention it to me. Nowadays, people say, if you want news to spread, just tell a person, hey, don't tell anyone. And you'll see it spread. But Anas radiallahu, his own mother, he didn't even divulge it to his own mother. And the mother also said, look, this is a secret between you and the Prophet ﷺ. Don't even say it to me. So the mothers were also like this, and the companions, the children were also like this. So when we, many times we complain our children are off track. So we will have good children when we have mothers like the mother of Anas radiallahu anhu. We'll have good daughters when we have daughters like Fatima radiallahu anhu. When we have parents like the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. It's a two-way stream. We need to do our part as children, as youth, and the parents need to do their part with proper parenting. So the point I'm making is to always keep promises. This will help us. And once we become, one day I was driving, and this is when I was still a student, and I was with an uncle, elderly uncle, a friend of my father's. And as I was driving, and the light went yellow, and I speeded right through the amber light, right through the yellow. And he said, let me tell you something. If you disobey the law, then you'll get a habit to disobey other laws. Eventually it'll be such that you'll also disobey a law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So create a habit in yourself that you will follow the law. So this will emphasize, it'll be easy for you to obey the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I still remember his words. So it may be just a rule, it's a man-made rule. But then it facilitates benefit. It helps me become a better human being. So this is the idea. What we need to do is always fulfill promises, fulfill the trust, and we will become amongst those people when the order of the day may be vice, may be sin, may be untrustworthiness, scams and forgery, and many times in the name of religion. But when we are the ones who are truthful, then even if we get caught up in something like this, we've done our part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. He knows whose intention is sincere. He knows whose intention was insincere. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of matters, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely help those who are on the path of sincerity. And the third plan of action that we find in the references of the hadith and the verses of the Holy Quran to help build trustworthiness and truthfulness is to always have a compassionate, caring attitude. Now generally, the scholars, they raise a question here, that what relevance is there with having a caring attitude, a compassionate attitude, and being truthful? So the ulama themselves explain that we see that when we have a caring and compassionate attitude, then we will feel disturbed to betray someone. we will feel disturbed to lie at someone. I will feel pain. I will feel pain that I lied to that person. I deceived this person. And this is why we see in the life of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, he told us to be generous, to be compassionate, to be kind, to think of others, to be less fortunate. We read a hadith on Wednesday where the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, a man came to him and said, you know what, I love you. Inni uhibbuk, I love you. So the Prophet ﷺ said, watch what you're saying. Be careful about what you're saying. So he said, I'm telling you again, I love you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, responded and said that if you love me, then you better be ready for challenges and difficulties. And the reason for this is when we want to love the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, we have to live his life. And there may be things that we are tempted to do that are wrong. But the Prophet told us we can't do that. We can't deceive, we can't lie, we can't cheat, we can't betray someone's trust. So it'll be difficult, but by going through that challenge and that difficulty, that sacrifice, it'll keep you close to me. And the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, he told Mu'adh radiallahu anhu that no matter where you are, or no matter how far you are from me, on the day of judgment, the person who followed my teachings will be closest to me. The person who followed my teachings will be closest to me. So I want to conclude with a story of Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu. He was traveling from Syria to Iraq, to Baghdad. He was halfway through the journey. And he realized that he has a pen that does not belong to him. And the verses of the Quran were echoing in his mind, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you don't know where you're going to die. You don't know when you're going to die. And the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, says in the narration that sometimes when death is written for you, then what happens is we intend to travel there. So we travel there and then death hits us because the death was decreed on that piece of land. So Abdullah ibn Mubarak is on his journey. And it's not the journey of a plane or a train. It's on camel, it's on horseback. And he realizes he has a pen that does not belong to him. He borrowed it from another person. So he tells his attendants, let's turn back, let's go all the way back. And he returned the pen back to the individual. And the people said it was only a pen. So he said, I'm a person of ink and paper. I'm a person of knowledge. And I know how valuable paper and ink is to me. If I don't have my pen, I know how disturbed I become. So if I take away this person's pen, death comes to me, this pen may not reach him back. So I came back to fulfill that trust. In the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ we see this. Why was Ali radiallahu anhu left in the bed of the Prophet ﷺ in his home when he went to migrate? It wasn't simply a plot to secretly move out. That wasn't the only objective. The reason was there was Amaanah and there was trust in the hands of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. He was known as Al-Amin As-Sadiq, the most trustworthy, the most truthful. And he had so much trust of the people, and if he started distributing the trust back, then the enemy would come to know that he's leaving. So he left without returning the trust, and he told Ali radiallahu anhu, when I reach Medina, when I reach there, after a certain period of time, then you return all the belongings to their rightful owners. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ was known as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Are we not the followers of this great Prophet? Are we not those people who belong to the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ? We are. So we can become that beacon of light. Even in a society, even in a community where it may be rampant that injustice is the order of the day, and deception and lying or cheating is the order of the day. Vice is glorified. But when we follow the teachings of the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, then we will definitely become that beacon of light. We will see success in this world. We will never regret following the Prophet ﷺ in this world and also in the everlasting life of the hereafter. So we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with true honesty. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the ability to always fulfill our promises. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to always be compassionate and caring, so that this can breed trust in us and integrity in us. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.